All right, folks. Well, by my watch, it is right at 9 o'clock, and we are going to go ahead and get started. Today's session will last 30 to 45 minutes. It does take just a little bit longer. We'll be covering real estate purchase contracts using the CIBR sales contract, including disclosures pulled in from the MLS and any other documents you'd like to add with Authentisign through Transaction Desk. So to start, you will see I just have a listing screen or a listing sheet pulled up out of the MLS. What we're going to do is we're going to initiate a new transaction for that listing. So this is if I'm on the buying side, on the buyer's side. I'm going to initiate a sales contract for that transaction. And I'm going to do that by selecting, sorry about that, I'm going to put that on mute. But I'm going to do that by selecting this green half circle up here in the top right hand corner. It says Transaction Desk. So you'll see what comes up here is it asks us to name the transaction. This is similar to other conversations we've had in Transaction Desk that you need to think about how you want to name transactions. I always do recommend using some part of the address for that. So I'm going to say 1007 Williamsburg Drive in Charleston. And then also I'm going to add to here like Joe Homebuyer. So I always use my buyer's names, and that's what I'm using today. For the template, I'm going to use my board level new residential sale template. If we set up custom templates for your agency, we may have those there. And again, those custom templates just include the forms and contracts that you want to use as an agent or as an agency. And down here, add me as I am the selling agent. I could choose both, neither, listing agent, but in this case, I'm the selling agent because I'm preparing the sales contract in this case. And I am going to want it to use the wizard. I'll go ahead and hit create. And this is going to pull me into that same 5-step wizard that we always see in Transaction Desk whenever we create a transaction. So step one, you'll see it's pulled in a lot of information from the MLS, including our street number, our address, zoning, year built, the comments, the legal description, the list price. On a purchase, page one or step one of the wizard, we need to fill out a purchase price. So this was listed for $224. I'm going to make a $215 offer. And my deposit or my earnest money here, I'll give them $2,500 in earnest money. And that's the only thing that I need to fill out on this page. Now, the inclusions and exclusions you can fill out here, and those will go over to the contract as well. So I'm going to go ahead and hit next. Step two is all about dates. The important ones here are our offer date, the date that I'm making that offer, so today, and when do they have to respond to that date. I'll give them 48 hours, so until tomorrow. And if you know potentially when you want to close, let's say 30 days out, so that would be the 11th of next month, we can put that in there as well. We'll go ahead and hit next. Step three, most important part of the transaction, or an important part of the wizard, in my opinion. These are the people that we're dealing with. Again, I'm logged into my appraisal account, which is why you see Corey Appraisal and Consulting here. But notice it knows who the listing broker and the listing brokerage is because that pulled in from the MLS. It also knows who my seller, or if there were sellers, in this case there's only one, are, because that pulled in from the MLS as well. Who we don't have is our buyers. So I want to add in our buyers, or buyer or buyers. And I'm going to hit create new. Actually, I've done that a number of times. Let's hit add existing and see what I've got in here. And you'll see I've got a lot of fake home buyers, but let's just say that today I'm going to use Frank Alfred Homebuyer 3, and that's his email address because I've used them in another transaction. So I'm just going to click it there and hit add. If you didn't have them, if you hadn't used them before, then you would just come up here to the add and create the transaction contact and fill out that information for them. But this will save us a little bit of time today. So we'll see there Frank Alfred Homebuyer 3 is added. If Frank had a wife, a suitor, they're buying it in a trust or with somebody else, you could add them in as well. Go ahead and hit next. These are our forms. These are the things that come in by default. We may or may not need all of these. So for instance, I do want a real estate purchase contract and then an inspection addendum and a radon. Because this is for both regions, we have a buyer and a seller paid termite. We'll say that the seller is going to pay the termite, so I'm just going to delete the buyer paid termite. Here's the well and septic. This is an in-town property, so we'll pretend we don't need that and pull it out. There's our for information only page, which I'm going to leave that in there, but I'm not going to send that to the client. So you'll see that here in a little bit, but I do want to leave it in here. And then here is our lead-based paint and our radon brochure that I will send to them electronically, just so I can prove that they did get copies of it. We'll go ahead and hit next. These are the documents. Now, these are the documents that came in from the MLS, okay? So we've got our disclosures, and we can preview them. So these are the attachments to that MLS listing sheet that are added to our, in this case, our sales package for us. So we can see the disclosures here. And if we want to see the other pages of that disclosures, we can either arrow through them or select the page we want to see here. So probably when we get down here, you know, it's lead-based paint, radon, those types of things. I'm going to close that one. Now, in this particular one, here's a home inspection to be provided, which I'm probably not going to send that out form for e-signature, but I'll let that go ahead and be part of my sales work file. And here's some utilities information, it looks like. Yep, there's some utilities information. Okay. So step 5 of 5, I'm going to go ahead and be done. And you'll see over here in Forms, so this is my transaction dashboard again. In Forms, I've got all the things that I can fill out and verify over here. And in Documents, the things that I cannot fill out or I can't make changes to over here in Documents. Again, as a reminder, you can go to any one of these sections either by using the Go To in the bottom left-hand corner of each one of those box sections. So go to Forms, go to Documents, or you can use your right side menu over here and click on Forms or Documents. If that right side menu isn't open, this is called the hamburger up in the upper right-hand corner, and you can open and close that right side menu. So I'm going to go to Forms because we need to fill out some of this information. So let's see what it filled out in the real estate purchase contract for us. So you'll see as soon as this loads, we've got our seller, we've got our buyer or buyers if it was here, county, legal description, address, PIN, purchase price, earnest money. There's additional earnest money, right? Within 5 days, who it's going to be held by. So I need to do all of this. I need to fill all of this out, right? Inclusions, exclusions, since I didn't type them in, washer, dryer, oh, excluded. I don't want the hot tub if there is one, things like that. Again, do not worry about signatures or initials. We're going to say no more than 0 days or $500 a day if they fail to deliver, no home warranty, no additional agreements. What are we including? Well, we're going to do that residential inspection and radon. We'll do termite and wood. Lead-based paint, I don't know if it was built prior to 78 or not. I forgot to look. Radon hazards and our real property disclosures. So that could be incorrect. Again, all of this, if you're using e-signature, we'll fill out here in a little bit. We're going to make this an easy cash sale. And that will be about it. If you were doing dual agency, we can put our time and date in here. We'll say they've got till the 13th at 10 o'clock p.m. So there's that one. Again, we've made changes to this, so we want to make sure to save this form. So I'm going to come to File, hit Save, and Save. Not save as PDF, just File, Save, and Save. I do not have to exit out of this to get to my next form. I just click on the little house that says Transaction Forms, and I'm going to come to my Residential Inspection Addendum. On these inspection addendums, the only thing that you really need to complete is your number of days, unless your potential buyer is waiving the inspection. In that case, you need to fill out the top part. But in this case, let's say they have 10 business days. We don't need to do anything else on this one. So I'll do File, Save, and Save. And move on to our radon inspection. Same thing on this, number of days, and I'll put in our fictitious 10 again. and File, Save, and Save. In an upcoming session, whenever we talk about templates and default fills, I'll show you how, if you're always using 10 days for those, or if those is commonly what you're using, how you can set those to be the default for either you, your office, your team, your agents, things like that. It's the same thing on the termite. I'll do 30 days on it, but whatever is appropriate for your area on those. So File, Save, and Save. We're getting through them. The for information only page I'm going to leave alone, and these are just the 2 brochures, which I don't need. So at this point, I'm done making form edits. I will come to File and click Exit and be back to my dashboard. So at this point, if you want to print these out for ink signature, or you want to do Authentisign, okay, the process up to this point has been exactly the same. If I want to print these out for ink signature to give to my client, all I'm going to do is check the ones that I want to print. If you click this, it'll check them all, but realize if you do that, they're going to get the for information only page, the lead-based paint brochure, and the radon brochure. Maybe that's okay, but these 2 down here will be about 20 pages maybe you didn't intend to print. So I'll uncheck those. I want my contract, I want my residential inspection, my radon, and my termite. I don't want the form information only page, or at least I don't. You may. You'll see I've got 4 items in my basket. I'm going to go to that basket, and I have lots of options up here. This one being print, to where I could print those. If you wanted to download them as a single PDF, that's here. If you wanted to email them, now again, nothing to do with Authentisign, nothing to do with the digital signatures, but if you wanted to email those to your client, and then they were going to print them out, sign them, and then you were going to meet to get them back, you could do that here. And just as a reminder, if you've already got your client's contact information in here, when you hit that, you can hit that contact card, and I can select this Frank Alfred Homebuyer III and select, since I already have his email address in there, it will send out to him that way. Last option here that we'll talk about is fax. Again, all inbound and outbound faxes included, free with Transaction Desk, and so you can fax those right out of the system from there. I'm going to hit close on that because we're going to use Authentisign. Now, before we jump over to Authentisign, let me jump to the docs portion too, because if you wanted to include those, same things. If you wanted to include, or I'm sorry, print the disclosures, here are my disclosures, same thing. We could add those to the basket. We could print, email, fax those disclosures as well. We're going to do it for digital signature though. So for that, those are called signings. So I'm going to come over to signings here from my right-hand menu. You'll notice that currently it is blank. There are no signings found. So I'm going to add a signing, and I'm going to call this original offer, because we know that unfortunately our original offer may not always stick. We may not be able to agree to terms. So we may have additional signings or additional things we send out for e-signature, our counter offer, if there's a repair addendum that comes back. So think of a signing as an individual kind of point in time with what are we trying to accomplish today or right now. So original offer, and I'll hit save. So the first choice that you need to make is either sign in line or simul-sign. And we've talked about this before, but sign in line is first come, first serve, where if you've got a buyer or 2 buyers, the husband is going to sign first. The wife cannot sign until after the husband has signed. Simul-sign is a nice option. It means I don't care what order they sign in. I just want them both to sign it. So we'll leave simul-sign for today. I'm going to come down to participants, and you'll see that I've got different participants in the transaction. I've got the seller, who I don't even, as the buyer's agent, have a relationship with. I've got the listing agent. I've got me as the selling agent, and I've got my buyer here. Well, I'm only concerned with my buyer for this one, so that's the only person I'm going to include as this participant for the transaction. So I'm going to choose my buyer and remote signer and add them into this. I'll see they're up here. As a reminder, if they have a red hand, anywhere, any of your signers or participants have a red hand here, that means that there's missing information. And typically that missing information will be, I'll click on it here, either an email address, a custom signature, or custom initial. I've got all those on here, so we're fine. Next, we'll go to documents. These are the documents that we want to include just in this signing. So what is it that I'm having that potential buyer or buyer sign? Well, I certainly want the contract. I'm going to do the residential inspection addendum, the radon, the termite. I am going to send them the lead-based paint brochure and the radon and the disclosures. I'm not sending them the for information only page, the home inspection, or the utilities. Of course, if you had some compelling reason to include those, you certainly could as well. I'll hit add. Once they show up here, this is the order that they will be presented. So you'll see I'm presenting the contract first, the residential inspection addendum, the radon, the termite, then the lead-based paint, the brochure, and the disclosures. Now, I usually would want to put these lead-based paint and radon brochures at the end. So I'm going to move my disclosures just by clicking that right arrow, and it's a little annoying that it jumps you back to 1 every time. Oh, I think I went ahead and hit on design. That's okay. So I moved one of them after the lead-based paint, but I'll show you how to go back and change that. So it says it's preparing this 39-page document because I jumped down and hit design a moment before I wanted to. Or in the interest of time, we'll just let it stay. But as all you would do to correct that is we would just hit back here, and we would hit continue without saving or save and continue, and then we could move that again. So you will see this is our design setup. This is where we're designing where the signatures, initials, check boxes that our buyers need to do are placed. Now, on all of the forms, you'll see our default fills are going to already be there for the most part. So I'll see at the bottom of page 1, my buyer is initialing and dating. At the bottom of page 2, they're doing number 9. They are doing the disclosure statement there and initialing and dating. If for some reason you weren't providing that to them and you wanted to delete those initials, you could just highlight it, hit the trash can, or delete on your keyboard, and it will take that off. Bottom of page 3, initials and date. Bottom of page 4, initials and date. Bottom of page 5, initials and date, and a signature and a date. So the contract already set up for you. Same thing on the residential inspection. They're initialing here. They're signing and dating here. On the radon, for whatever reason, it has them accepting or denying a signature here on a waiver. I don't want to give them that option, right? We've already talked about it. They're going to have a radon inspection. So I'm just going to highlight that, hit delete, and it pulls those off. And you will see down here at the bottom of the radon, it's asking them to sign and date at the bottom. Same thing on the termite. So we're good there. Now we're into that lead-based paint brochure. Now, we can prove, I'll tell you that from a board level, if you send this to them through Authentisign, we can prove that they got it, okay, and saw it. Some people will still say, you know what, I just want them to throw a set of initials on it, just so, you know, they're signing that they got it. Okay, well, I'm just going to come up to drag and drop here and do this red mandatory initial. I'm just going to drag it out here on the lead-based paint brochure. That will make them put an initial right there. Come on down through the 20 pages or so of this lead-based paint brochure because I didn't get the other one flipped. And we're going to see the disclosures that came in from the MLS for this property that I added out of the documents box, or what they call the doc box. So they're right here. Now this is a static document. So this is something that we can't make changes to, but we can add signatures to. So you'll see signatures are not set up on this by default. So I need to add in the signatures to this. So here's my prospective buyer. So I'm going to use a mandatory signature here. I'm going to hit my little settings wheel, and I'm going to hit add date. And I can add my date over here. And also, I know not everybody fills it out, but it asks for time. And here's my time right here. So add date, add time. And that will make them sign date and time right there on the bottom of page 204. Some people use the date stamp over here as well, and that works just fine. Date provided the buyer. I'm going to go ahead and throw a date stamp right there, right? And there we are. Here we're into the lead-based paint disclosure. So I'm just going to have my purchaser acknowledge here, right? Acknowledge here, and acknowledge here. And then we're going to have them do a mandatory X that they receive the opportunity to do a risk inspection on lead-based paint. So they will have to check that box. They need to sign down here, and they need to add a date stamp right there. So there they're signing and dating my lead-based paint. Here's our purchaser's acknowledgement here. So we're going to put an initial there and an initial here, and they're going to sign here and date right over here. Okay. And then we're into our radon. Again, if you want an initial on the radon, throw it out there. Okay. So we'll just review real quick, make sure that we have all of our signatures and initials set up and dates. So we'll pretend we did that. Next step is just to click next, and this prepares us for sending out. So you'll see I've got two options: send invitations, which is you're using the default subjects and for that email, or you can customize it. I'll choose customize just because I usually just use the whatever. We're just verifying Frank A. Homebuyer's email address, and I'm using mine today. And I'll put in a custom subject. Usually it says Authentisign invitation to sign and accept, and then whatever you called that signature. But I'm going to say, I'm going to put a custom one in here, and I'll say original, I'm going to say purchase contract for Williamsburg property. And I'll put in here, Frank, call me if you have any questions on the contract or disclosures. We'll hit save. We're going to go ahead and hit send invitations, and that will send out. So at this point, that's going to return us to transaction desk. To the signings window. Now, right now, it still says this is in the wizard. That just hasn't updated. I want to show you, if we drop into signings here, what it will say once you've already sent that out is it says this signing is in progress right here. And we get a lightning bolt that means that's in progress. When it's done, we'll get a blue ribbon. And let's go see what Frank received. So I'll come back here and refresh my email. And potentially be a little patient. There we go. So you'll see it looks like it comes from you, okay? And it says from Paul Brown, purchase contracts for Williamsburg property original offer, because that's what I set it as. So it's going to look like it comes from you. And there is your message in here. It says, Frank, call me if you have questions on the contract or disclosures. And then what your potential buyer needs to do, I think it's somewhat intuitive, but it says click here to sign. They need to click here to sign it. If they have not used Transaction Desk before, first thing it's going to ask them to do is set up their signature. And there are 5 or 6 font options there where they can use a fonted signature, completely legal in the state of Illinois. And we have the signing certificates to back that up. Or if they're on a smartphone or a tablet, or a computer with a touch screen, they can choose to do a signature where they'll draw on the touch screen or the tablet, or they can try to use their mouse, although that's a little ugly. I'll show you that. So you'll see this is the first thing that comes up, and I can either select a font style, any one of these they choose, or leave it as the default, or I can hit draw signature. If I hit draw signature, they're going to have to sign an initial. Now, I just have a mouse on the computer, and so if I was doing a Frank A, you'll see it looks pretty ugly. Home buyer. And the third. 1, 2, 3. And then also an initial. So I'll say F, A, B. I know that they'd never do this, but I'll put a 3, right? And that's fine. It will use those, and you'll see this. So I'll hit accept. Now, really, really important for you to tell your clients, after they've adopted that signature, this is their chance to review those forms and contracts before they start signing. So this is their chance to scroll through and review those. Okay? They do have an options button over here where they can choose to print and download that as well if they wanted to print them out right from there. And they'll also get a copy of them in their email once they're signed. However, when they are ready to start signing, they click the red start button. But what I want you to notice happens is it will jump you to the first place that a signature, initial, or checkbox is required. So I hit start, and I'm at the bottom of page 1, I have a red arrow out to the left telling me that's where I need to sign or initial. And I simply click on the signature, initial, or box, right, that it's wanting me to initial or sign. And then it jumps me clear down to the bottom of page 2 because it's the next place I need to sign or initial. So I'm going to initial there, initial here, and you'll see it just keeps jumping. So that's why they need to review ahead of time. And I'm signing here, initialing here, signing here. I'm into my either lead-based paint or radon, signing here. This is the termite, signing here. Right, here's where I threw that set of initials on the lead-based paint brochure. So I'm having him initial there. So we just skipped like 15 pages. Now we're down to the bottom of the disclosures, of the real property disclosures, and signing here. Here I need to initial, and then I'm saying they have to check this box because I did provide them with that. And they're signing here, and they're initialing here and here. They're signing here. And last but not least, I had them initialing right here. Now, this is something where there's a little bit of variability in Authentisign, depending on what options you've put in there. We always hope that this box comes up here in the center and it says complete signing. If for some reason it does not, you can come up and hit complete up here in the right-hand corner. Now they have 3 options: complete signing, stay and review, or reset. If they hit complete signing, it completes the signing. If they hit stay and review, this gives them the option just to review what it is that they've signed, okay? Or reset takes all the signatures, check boxes, initials out there and makes them start over. They hit stay and review, and then they agree that they're good with everything they signed in initials, then they can come up here and hit complete. That same box loads, and we hit complete signing right here. And it brings up this password screen. They do not need to set a password, and we recommend for the most part that people don't set a password. The only time that they should set a password is when they are using a shared email account, which is uncommon anymore. But let's say they're sharing that with 3 coworkers. Well, remember, they're going to get a copy of the signed and executed contract or package that we sent back to them in their email as soon as we're done signing here. Well, if they don't want those other people to be able to view it, they would need to put a password on right here. If they hit no thanks, and that's just openable from the email that they receive. So I'm going to hit no thanks. It says, hey, thanks for using the Authentisign system. You're done. Great. That's what the buyer sees. I'm going to go ahead and archive this out. And as what I want you to see is back over here in Transaction Desk. So back from the agent view, I haven't refreshed this, and it does take a minute to process. But let's just see for a minute. I'm going to jump to Documents and then back to Signings. Hey, it is done. You'll see in Signings we have a blue ribbon, and it says it's approved. If I come here and hit Original Offer, I'll see that Frank A. Homebuyer has authenticated and signed. Also, while we're here, the separate signed documents are down here, but this is not the best place to get them. But what I do want to show you from this screen, and is only accessible from this screen, is the signing certificate. So if you're doing VA especially, or some lenders will ask for a digital signing certificate whenever you're using Authentisign. That lives, or whenever you're using e-signature of any type. That lives here in that signing information. It's right up here at the top. It's this little page that has a lock in it. We click on it. It prepares a 6-page signing certificate that you can download as a PDF and send to that lender or whoever might be asking for it. But this is the only place that I'm aware of to get that in Transaction Desk. So here is what's called the Authentisign signing certificate, and it's got all the legal verbiage that lender will be needing. You can view it and download it as a PDF. So these documents, I want to show you the best place to get those. Once these forms have been signed, forms and documents have been signed, they become documents. Now to explain that, they become documents because they are no longer editable. So I went to the documents section of the transaction, and you will see we've got all of these documents in here that have a green lock next to the left of them. And that means that they have been certified and digitally signed. Now, not to be confused, just so you know, you'll see we have 2 documents in here that are called 1007 Williamsburg disclosures. The reason for that is this is the one that has been signed by our buyer. This is the original one from the transaction, right? So if I see here this one, I'll click on it to open it up. This one has an Authentisign ID at the top, and if I go down a couple pages, I'll just go to page 2 on this, we'll see this one has been signed and dated by our potential buyer, right? Same thing with these other documents down here. Now, we didn't have any, but here's our purchase contract. Here's our lead-based paint and radon brochure, residential inspection addendum, termite and wood, radon, all of those things are right there. Sometimes people get confused, but just let me show you. Sometimes people think, well, those are forms they signed. Well, yes, they're forms that they signed, but if I come back over here to forms and I look at something like our real estate purchase contract, you'll notice that it's not signed at the bottom. Well, what you have to remember is that's because that form is editable or changeable. Once it's been signed, you can't change anything on that form, and that's when it becomes a document, once it's signed. So I'm going to exit here, come back to documents, just pull it up to show you. Here's our purchase contract, page 1 of it, and down at the bottom we've got their initials and date, because that's no longer editable. Same thing here, just like before, the basket works the same. If I wanted to send those on to the seller's agent at this point, assuming that I had signed it where I needed to, as well as the agent, but I would just click my checkbox here, right? I'm going to be nice. I probably don't need to send the list agent those brochures, you know, but my radon inspection addendum, my real estate purchase contract, right, and my termite and wood. And again, I would just hit my little basket and come select email, right? Under recipient email, click the contact card. There's my list agent right there. Select them, hit send, and those are on their way, right? So there you go, in 31 minutes. I thought it'd take a little longer, but I trimmed stuff like adding full buyer contact details. I used a previous one. But what we did today, again, is we initiated a transaction from a listing sheet in Innovia by clicking this green circle right up here. We set up that transaction, included the forms that we wanted. We saw how it pulled over those documents included in Innovia, being in this case the real property disclosures, a home inspection report, and utilities. We completed our forms, filling out the real estate purchase contract, the days in the in the radon, the residential inspection addendum, and the termite. We then brought all of those over into a signing, set that up for Authentisign, sent it out, saw what the buyer did, completed the signing, and saw how that came back into transaction desk. I showed you where to get the digital signing certificate and where those documents live and how to send them to another agent. The only other item I can think of that I haven't shown you is let's see what that potential buyer got in their email. So again, it looks like it came from you, or in this case from Paul Brown. And it says purchase contract. It says, attention, Frank Homebuyer. This is notifications let you know the Authentisign e-signature process for original offer has been successfully reviewed and signed by all parties. Okay? And so it says save or print the final document. Click here. They can also get that completion certificate, right? And so if they click here, it allows them to download that original offer as a PDF, right? And I'll show you. Let me just click on it. And you'll see it's just one big 39-page PDF at this point. And you also get that as an email. You'll notice in the PDF, it's got these little yellow boxes on it. And if you scroll over those, it will give you the information about the IP address, the time and the date that they did those individual signatures or initials. Okay, hey, I'm going to end the recording on this, and then I will answer individual questions. So let me end that recording first, and then we will go from there.